What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to look at Trump's path to victory. Definitely think that right now, Biden definitely has more paths to victory right now, but by no means should Trump be counted out. So right now, I basically think that these are probably all of the swing states that I think could go either way. For the sake of this video, I'm going to give Trump Iowa and Ohio just because I do think he's favored to win in these states. Most of the swing states right now definitely favor Joe Biden, but I mean there's 18 days until the election, and by no means should Trump be counted out yet. And there's a few data points that I think are pretty interesting right now. So looking at the real clear politics top battlegrounds average, so this kind of looks at the six states that I think will determine the 2020 presidential election: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Florida, North Carolina, and Arizona. So going at the beginning of the year, I mean Trump was doing wildly better than he was in 2016. But even looking at two a day, we definitely can see that Biden was doing better, kind of in the end of June to July, and in the month of September. But right now, it's pretty even, and Trump is actually doing better. Now, this is definitely for several reasons. So, at the beginning of October, 4 years ago, Trump was not doing well. If you kind of put on your memory crap, this is kind of when the Access Hollywood stuff came out, and I mean I remember polls that had Hillary Clinton up like 50 to 38 in the national popular vote. So people definitely thought that this race was over. Um, I think looking at it from a 2020 perspective, I think Biden is in a little better place than Hillary Clinton was, just because his lead in the polls has been pretty steady. If Trump were only down by about 2.7, which he was only down by 2.7 at the beginning of September, I would say that this race is close to a toss up. However, Biden definitely has improved about 2 points, and the battlegrounds is where it is going to matter. The popular vote, even though there's always polls coming out of this coming out every day that are like, oh, Biden's up by 8 or 9 or 10 points. The popular vote doesn't matter, and 538 even did something where it's like, I mean, Biden could win the popular vote up to 6 points, and Trump would still win in the electoral college just because he has an advantage there. So, looking at the swing states for right now, I definitely kind of expand this map to help Trump just because I'm looking at Trump's path to victory right now. But I think we can be pretty sure that Trump is going to get at least 188 electoral votes. I really don't think he's going to get anything under this, and I don't think any serious pundits are saying that he's going to get below this number either. So just looking at these states, I think the number one state that I would say out of these 10 or so that Trump probably has the highest likelihood of winning is the state of Georgia. And looking at the 538, this is basically what they have too. So all the states in red right here are the states that 538 gives to Trump, and then I kind of included from here over are kind of the swing states, because even looking at 538, I mean they have Biden up by 3 in Florida, which is pretty close. Pennsylvania is definitely a little bit more, but I mean it's only one polling error, and if we remember in 2016 in Wisconsin, the polls were off by about 6.5 to 7 points. So there's definitely something to be said there. So I think the first state that we should look at is the state of Georgia. I mean, overall, if we look at it here, 538 has as a toss up. I still think that this tilts or leans to Trump. I mean, yes, we have seen this one poll that had Biden +7. Obviously, this poll is an outlier, and I still think that overall that Georgia for one more election is going to go towards Trump. We saw in the 2018 midterms, Brian Kemp, who's kind of a controversial figure, I think maybe a little bit to the right of Trump, he still won by 1.5 points in that kind of Democratic wave year. I know some people on the left were calling out for voter suppression, but I really don't know how much that was a factor. So okay, moving on right here. So we kind of have the Sun Belt states, and we have the Rust Belt states, and then Nevada and New Hampshire are kind of a little bit not they don't neatly fit in either category here. But first, I wanted to go to the state of North Carolina. I think right now North Carolina is kind of a pure toss up at this point. The polls kind of have it going back and forth. I think there's a poll that came out today that had a tie. I think a 46-46 tie. In fact, I want to see, or it was a Emerson poll. It had it at a 49 pie, and Emerson is a poll that really isn't biased at all. So I think that kind of if Trump improves in his standings, and one thing that I also want to look at too is the betting odds. So I honestly think that for the election right now, that Trump has probably hit rock bottom. So he hit about 32.8. I mean, this was after his first debate performance. He really dropped in the betting odds, but I think he's bounced back now. So this first one was due to the first debate performance, and this is when Trump got COVID. But now he's holding his rallies. He's very energetic, and so I think he was definitely going to have some momentum going into the end of October, and when they hold the third debate. And I think it's similar to the momentum that Trump got right here. So anyway, if Trump continues to bounce back, I think that North Carolina can definitely go into his column. And next up is the state of Florida. I just saw that Trump was talking to seniors in the state of Florida. Seniors are one of the biggest groups that we've seen a shift to in the polls. However, if Biden can't commit to not packing the courts, I think this is something that seniors definitely won't be a fan of. And I mean, I definitely think that Trump can kind of get his coalition of senior voters back. But because we've seen that the coronavirus, I think, has kind of taken its largest toll. So I don't think that will be as fresh on voters' mind as it might have been in August or September. And then also just looking back at the 2018 midterms, in a Democratic wave year, the Republicans won 2 statewide races that were pretty high profile. A lot of money being poured in on the Senate level. We saw that Rick Scott won, and then on the governor's level, Ron DeSantis, who leaned heavily into Trump, won. And I think some people were surprised by this because both in the polls, both candidates are probably both Democratic candidates were up by between 3 or 4 points. And right now, Biden's up by an average of 2 points. So if we consider that polling error, then Florida could very easily go to Donald Trump. So then looking at this map, I think we see that in most of these states, Biden does have a pretty good lead. The next state that I think is the most likely is the state of Arizona. Although there is some polling that definitely has Biden up by between 2 and 3 points, it's still less than Biden's margin of victory kind of in the Rust Belt right now. So I definitely think it's possible that Trump just barely holds on to the state of Arizona for one more year. I think in 2024, it's definitely going to be a lean Democratic state. But definitely, I think that Trump can hold any state of Arizona. So if he kind of holds all the states that he won in the Sun Belt, all he has to do is kind of win one more state in the Rust Belt. I think right now it's probably most likely to be Wisconsin or Pennsylvania. If he wins Wisconsin, then he's at the magic number of 269. And I've explained in the past that he would win if he gets 269. if he wins Pennsylvania, which I think but before was probably kind of the most competitive state in the Rust Belt. We've seen Pennsylvania kind of drift towards Biden recently, but all he needs is one of these polls or to win. We saw a poll coming out of the Trafalgar group that had Trump up one. I think Michigan's probably going to be one of the hardest states for him to win out of the Rust Belt. But I mean, also if Trump wins Michigan, then he wins outright here. So I think one other scenario that people are thinking might happen. So I think Trump has to win North Carolina and Florida to have a path, but he could also win in Pennsylvania, which I think previously is the was the most likely. And looking back at the snake chart, we do see Pennsylvania is still to the right of like Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota. So I think this also gets Trump to 269 votes. Um, let's see. If Trump were to say to overperform with his 2016 margin with Hispanics, which we've seen in the polls, that's one group where actually Trump is doing better than his 2016. I get him to 266, so he would have to win, let's say, like New Hampshire to get to that magic number of 260 or 270 right here. So I definitely think that Trump has got to win one of these Rust Belt states, and I think that's why both candidates are campaigning. Most famously in 2016, Hillary Clinton didn't visit the state of Wisconsin in the past couple of weeks. But that's something that Trump has got to do. Right now, I think we can pretty much say that Biden probably has an advantage in the state of Minnesota and Wisconsin, and probably even Nevada right here. So I definitely think that the 2020 election is going to come down to these two states right here. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching, and be on the lookout for a new video in the future.